Good morning. Woo! Church of Harriet. I'm going to burn a little sage here. Get my rattle. Woo! It's been an intense weekend. I don't know about you, but we had these eclipses going on. We had a lot of energy. So if you feel very emotional and like everything's falling down a bit, I was thinking a lot. We're in some troubled waters right now, troubled waters. And here we are together because what we always do is we keep on walking, keep on going. So I'm saying a little prayer. I got my ancestor behind me, Harriet, of course. I have my Buddha of compassion on the left, and I have green Tara on the right. So here we are. We're going to call in all the angels and our guides today as we just keep on focusing. This is what we do in the troubled waters. We just keep moving. So just deeply want to honor how much I'm loving this class with you. I find myself studying so much, hours and hours of history, and learning about all these great people that are in the civil rights movement, Bodhisattvas. So I want to welcome everybody. Here we are, class number 4. We're moving, we're working through some stuff. And I hope that our church time, for me, this is church, and we're evoking this power. We're evoking the presence of these great ancestors of ours. And so I hope everyone had time to review the homework last night or from last week, which was really important to look at the founders of the Underground Railroad. So let's talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're going today. And I welcome people as they're logging on from all over the world, and Oakland and Israel, just saying hi to everyone. People from England and all the Bay Area folks. Welcome this morning. And so we want to kind of just do a little review. And I was just thinking there's just so much to process around our world right now, and just feeling it in my body a lot, my heart just carrying. So you might see me tapping my heart. It's sort of somatic, like, woo, it's just kind of expanding as I navigate with you all. And, there's a lot happening being a teacher right now and a healer, and trying to, just share with you how deeply moving everything is right now, and politics and health and economics, and the civil rights movement is here. It is not going anywhere right now. It's escalating. And so the beautiful thing is to be in community with everyone. Okay, this is it, community. So just double check your microphones and make sure they're off. Just a quick message there, just triple check that as we move forward. So the first class, what we really talked about was we sort of did an overview of Harriet's life and legacy. There's many stories yet to tell. Next week, we'll be launching back into telling some stories as her life continually it's evolving right now. I've been contacted by librarians and researchers. I want to thank you all for reaching out with your own stories, how you've been so moved and touched by this course, this class. And so the first class, we sort of gave an overview arc of Harriet. And I think we're learning as we go, as things are evolving. And I want to tell you, this class has sort of taken a life of its own. My publisher, Patty, I'm not sure if she's on the call, they're offering me a book deal. So I'm going to be deep in Harriet Tubman world right now. I was like, okay, Harriet, I'm yours. Let's do this. What can I help to put out? The Buddha, Harriet, and this path forward, right? And I'm very excited about that. So my journey with this great spirit, this great ancestor, continues to amaze me, and it's unfolding. I feel the spirit of Harriet with me all the time. And so there's something really profound happening with me and our ancestors here. And of course, all the creators and the supporters of the Underground Railroad, I feel their spirits too, all of them. And I'm learning more about many people who lived and died in supporting this work. Okay, so then the second class, we really were talking about the prison of the mind. And here we were getting into the whole illusion of white supremacy and the programming, right? Like these programs. And if you really look at that, as far as in the Buddhist tradition, you know, our beliefs create reality, right? Our thoughts create a whole world. So our belief systems right now, how we think, the stories we tell, are what creates our life. We build systems around our beliefs, right? Everything is like out of creation. You know, we manifest things from the program, and this deep program of white supremacy, the legacy of it, and also the part of the inferiority, right? The oppression of someone. It's a dance, right? I have to believe I'm inferior, you believe you're superior, and then the whole suffering game of that manifests, right? So there's two places that are waking up in us. The views that we might have held, our family, our ancestors, you know, what's happening in the collective consciousness as we're seeing this rise of racism, but also we're seeing this rise of the systems breaking down, right? The stories being questioned. I could not tell you how many emails that I've gotten lately that have been so beautiful, where people were saying, I just didn't understand history. Like, I am learning. And these are people in like 50s, 60s, even 70s are like, I just didn't know. So that's what's breaking the program. Knowledge, truth, compassion. That's what breaks open things. And so we're in that right now. The conditioned mind, you know, what is the world that we want to create here? What are we leaving to our children, our grandchildren, our great, 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 great grandchildren, right? Those moments right now will affect future generations, right? They are affecting the past. The past is here. If you haven't noticed, how many people are reliving the past in your life? Things that you thought were done, it's like, nope. Family things, personal things, childhood things, like there's like the earth is doing a giant purge, right? And the eclipses help that, right? They actually bring up the shadow. It's like everything that's under the carpet is like, woo, but it's scary, right? What's been buried is like, whoa, this is a lot. But let's not lose faith right now, right? We're in the troubled waters, but the only thing we can do is just get on those canoes and keep going. We just get on the ship, right? And we just sail. So this is about just staying in the lane, keeping going, keeping walking, keeping moving, keeping our eye on the truth, on love and compassion. And so, and standing up for what's right, for our values, you know, for what we believe, for justice, for equality. We stand up for that. And so class number 3 was last week, and we talked about all the ancestors, mostly the ancestors who were white. I intentionally focused on that. Allies. What does it mean to be an ally? Right? And we learned about so many people who were supporting Harriet. And, you know, I was thinking a lot about that class and how I was trying to imagine Harriet Tubman, you know, here she battles, you know, to get free and being born into slavery and then leaving and getting to Philadelphia. And then here's all these white men basically helping her and calling her Moses, and like what a mind shift she had to do. Then they became her friends, right? And so right now we're expanding, right? Community, allies, together we make this movement forward. It has to be both of us, all of the communities of color fighting for understanding their value, right? It's a fight to say, no, my life matters. And then we have the allies like dismantling. So many things are being dismantled right now. So it feels like the ground is just shaking, It's like, oh my gosh, how deep is this going to go? And I think it's going to go a lot deeper than it is now, this unraveling of systems, because the systems we know are based a lot on hatred, based a lot on greed, right? These are systems even bigger than racism that we're fighting against. This is like this Pachamama, right? The earth consciousness, the earth people, right? And so this is like an epic time to be alive, right? And it's hard, right, to bear witness, but we do it. We have strength and we can call on our ancestors. So last week was very important to me. And I thought a lot about John Brown, and I did a presentation about him because I'm learning just how revolutionary he was. And I'll talk more about him in this conversation, because today's topic is really about the spiritual warrior, the Bodhisattva, and this topic around violence and nonviolence, right? This is actually a very important topic, and I can't tell you that I have all the answers to it. And I can tell you that Harriet Tubman was complex, in this topic. It's like, we know we want to have this nonviolent movement, of course. That's the heart of the Dharma. And yet, what do you do if someone's trying to kill you or you're protecting a group of people and you have to carry a gun? And how do we reconcile this? And this issue of how to proceed was really displayed in the civil rights movement, because we had Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King, right? They were these two figures that kind of represented, they both were desperate to get to the same place, but their approach was different. And so how do we learn from that? How do we understand that there might be another type of civil war? And how do we reconcile that lives sometimes are lost in the revolution? How do we hold that? And I can't tell you that I know, because I'm still grappling with that in myself. I prayed. I was up on Friday. I spent the whole night in very deep prayer on Friday. I lit all these candles. I was praying, and I was imagining how it would be if I was taking a group of women and children and people that were going to be killed, and I had a gun and I was attacked. I was trying to put my mind, like, what would I do and what would be the right thing to do? So this issue is a very complex one, and it's worth spending our time reflecting on this, because Harriet, after she escaped and after she spent 10 years, I was researching, she was a conductor on the Underground Railroad for 10 straight years. And it was in her 20s, they estimate there's a lot of discrepancy around what her birth date is. So it's somewhere between 1920 and 1925. She says it's 1925. Other people have said it's 1922, but as you know, they didn't keep records of when slaves were born. It didn't matter to them, so they didn't really record it. But the time of her death is recorded. That's historical. But I was just, as we think about her life, then becoming a military soldier, right? Fighting for the Union Army to abolish slavery. It was a battle over racism in this country. It was a battle over that kind of cruelty. So how do we stand up here? And what does that mean? And many people have to put their lives on the line. And I want to hold that in the conversation of the archetype of the great Bodhisattva, right? The great Bodhisattva. How do we hold that? And how do we proceed with a nonviolent internal setting completely? But what if we have to face something? So that's kind of what I want to talk about, because this is real right now. Lives are being lost, and there may be some kind of battle here to come with people. And how do we hold that? How do we work with that as a warrior on this path? And it's just a good contemplation to think about, because this is, in the Buddhist context, this is all a dream, and yet it's so real at the same time, right? We really are in something. And so we want to be thinking about that as far as just this great discussion around this today. So I hope this is going to be in a good topic, right? Again, I don't have the answers fully. I can know what my heart says, which is deep compassion. And I know hatred never ceases by hatred. That's famous Buddhist doctrine. Love alone, it's healed. But what if you have to defend yourself, right? There is self-defense, right? So there's this dance. So we're going to really play with that topic today. I'm going to share some stories. And we'll just see where we get to. But I really want to welcome everyone onto the call as people are still logging on. And I hope you're all doing well. And it's just good to gather in community. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do our meditation. And we're going to do a few extra minutes of just deep meditation and some prayers. Because praying, it's where it's at right now. And then, a lot of my prayers have been like, Heavenly Father, help me. It just happens, Heavenly Father, whoever those fathers are out there, like your prayers have power, okay? Prayers in the Tibetan tradition, many years are spent in deep prayer, right? We're praying for more compassion. We pray for more wisdom and clarity, right? We pray for strength and courage. And we pray for that divine guidance to help us move our feet, to help us speak the words that need to be spoken. We also pray for peace right now because it's so painful. A lot of what's happening is so triggering, just seeing the president at Mount Rushmore was just like, I mean, I was like, trigger. I know I have Native American friends, and right now they're just like, the triggers are, and so every day it's a new one, like the alarms going off, every day. So we pray for peace in the midst of that we can be restored, that we can be filled up. And so we come to our meditation with stillness, but a deep prayer to the Heavenly Fathers, Mothers, guardian spirits, Bodhisattvas, angels of light, Saint Francis of Assisi, Buddhas in all directions. So we want to evoke them, and we want to bring everything into the heart, right? And all of our ancestors, those who lived and died and fought for truth, fought because their hearts knew that this kind of racism is wrong, right? And they stood on that, their ethical stand. We stand with those who had real courage in this. And so together, let's do our meditation. So wherever you are, find yourself. We're still deep in this eclipse energy. Eclipses are endings. They mark endings, astrological end. Something shifts, right? So we are sitting in the midst of a powerful time, both astrologically, society, internally, the universe is shifting, and we shift as well. So I'm going to ring the bell to start. And we want to ground down in the body. And so as you feel your body sitting, feel your legs and your feet under you. Try to feel your feet rooting down in the body, deep in the body. And now feel your sitting bones touching the chair or the cushion. Feel the support under you, that we are surrounded by love and support. This great shift, this great turning is internal. It's the heart, the mind coming back to the heart. And we just feel the belly now. Come into your belly. And release with each breath. Take some deep belly breaths. We're digesting so much energy, consciousness, collective. See if you can allow your belly to be soft. Let your system settle. The nervous system, our primal brains are activated. So, this primal energy, we just see if you can, as you breathe in and out of the belly on each rise and fall, see if you can settle in deeper to your body, to your posture. If you can, let your shoulders and back be tall, like we stand up to our sitting posture is also a posture of presence. It's meeting the moment. So if you can straighten your back and let your shoulders relax, but also there's a kind of rising with the posture. And we can just practice a kind of rising up, sitting. Now feeling your breath in your chest area. Softening your neck and your shoulders. Soften your hands. Let your hands be soft. Notice how you're holding them. Is there tension? If so, just soften every place that you find tension. Let your breath just find any place that feels stuck, tight, contracted. We'll sit for about 20 minutes or so, just feeling your breath. If the mind wanders, come back to the rhythm of your breathing in the belly or the chest. Notice where you feel sensations of your breath. And we just ground down in this moment, just as best we can, just right here, right now, one breath at a time. With a kind awareness, gentleness. We do this as an act of love. If emotions come, just allow the emotions to come, sorrow, anger, fear. We're just releasing. We are releasing with the breath. The in-breath, we breathe in new life, vitality, wisdom. Let the body begin to just settle. Just gentle with yourselves. Just this breath. Just this moment. See if you can just feel the rise of the in-breath and then the flow of the out-breath. Let the body be like a mountain, and the breath is the breeze, and the mind open like the sky, a vast space. And the belly is rising and falling. And here we are sitting halfway between heaven and earth. One breath at a time. And as you sit, begin to feel the strength that you carry, the medicine that you carry, the wisdom. With each breath, we're evoking this innate wisdom that's within us. Find your breath, find your body, and there you will find the present moment. Feeling your body on the earth, make contact. Feel your sitting bones touching. Feel your feet rooted, connected as best you can to the breath, to the body. Feeling your belly softening any tension. Now bring your awareness to your heart center and notice what your heart is carrying. You can maybe put your hand on your heart as we access this deeper wisdom that's in the heart. It's not in the head, it's the body, the heart. We are calling forth this higher knowledge, this deep compassion, this wisdom that rests deep in the heart chakra, deep in this channel. And so as you place your hand on your heart and just breathe into the heart, if there's grief, we just allow ourselves to feel it, or hardness, loneliness, or joy. So let your breath, almost as if your heart is just taking a deep breath, and we're just breathe in and then breathing out, and the out breath, letting go of fear. Letting go of rage, outrage. And we're going to turn that into a kind of soul force compassion. We're transmuting energy, turning fear into courage, anger into power and wisdom and clarity. And so as you take some deep breaths, we're going to do it for this whole collective. We're going to breathe in all of the fear. We're going to pull it through the heart on the in-breath, and we're going to alchemize it on the out-breath, turning it into wisdom and deep compassion. Breathing in courage and wisdom, breathing out courage and wisdom. We're transmuting on the in-breath fear, anxiety, breathing out love, strength, and wisdom. In our families, we breathe it in, all in our family tree, all of the fear, delusion, and greed. Breathing it in through the heart, we alchemize it, breathing it out as light, golden rainbow light on the out breath. Through the heart, alchemy. We are alchemizers of energy. And as you take some in-breaths now, let yourself breathe in the power and the strength that's carried in the Dharma. As we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, breathe that in, the refuge prayer, the refuge tree, the light of awakened consciousness that is in each of us. So we breathe in, we're accessing this enlightened consciousness. It's in us, it's not outside. So we breathe in to illuminate it, to awaken it, to free it from all obstacles, all veils that would obscure our innate power, our innate Buddha nature. So we just breathe this and we let the heart breathe it in, breathe it out. Our bodhicitta, our love for this world, compassion for the suffering of this world. As we're going through this birth canal, something new is being born, something new is trying to grow. And we want to be the midwives of that, this awakening in us, as all beings. And we give thanks to the Creator. We give thanks for these teachings. We give thanks for this time together. And may this time be blessed for inspiration, for healing, for upliftment, for love, for humanity. We give thanks to the healing of this one family tree that includes all of humanity. We send love to all those who are sick and in hospitals. We send love to all those who are oppressed. We send love and light. For we are the conductors of truth and beauty for the benefit of all beings everywhere. Om Mani Padme Hum. Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. Okay, Om Mani Padme Hum. Here we go. If you need to stand up or do a little stretch, move your body. The body, I've noticed my body is like stiff these days, right? It's frozen. Got to unfreeze the body, get the life back going. So moving your body as we start to get this ship on the right track. Got to sail to the sun. We're going to sail it to the sun here. So yes, moving your body is key right now. Don't let yourself get frozen in a frozen state. Got to do yoga, walk in nature if you can. Whatever you got to do, it's like we just keep on walking, right? That's our thing. We keep moving. We keep it moving. Always back on. Get this train going. That's what we do right now, friends. We light candles, we pray, but we keep moving forward. That is the key word. That's the key today. That's what Harriet spent 10 years running. 10 years. By the way, she was only about 100 pounds. So imagine that. 10 years running, carrying people. That's beautiful. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit today, is this Bodhisattva archetype. And what does this mean? And how do we bring this power in? Because part of this class is learning about Harriet, but it's also learning about you. You're Harriet, we can put Harriet on our altar and be very inspired, and that's a beautiful thing. But right now, to be living in this time is to awaken that part of us that has deep reserves of medicine. We are the medicine carriers, right, for these times. And I know we don't feel like that. We're baby bodhisattvas, right? I always think, oh my God, I can't. I'm a kindergartner bodhisattva. But actually, within each of us, according to the Buddha, we are already awakened. We just are in a state of forgetfulness, right? We forgot. We forgot how powerful we are. It's easy to forget in this culture because you have the whole culture like hating on, so much negativity. Right? It's very hard for us to feel empowered, right? This is a time, I'll tell you one thing, of reclaiming power, right? The power that's innate in us, And so the beautiful thing I love about the Dharma, when I first heard it, I'll never forget when I was listening. I went to my first retreat when I was in my early 20s, over 20 years ago. And I remember Jack Kornfield was giving a talk. And he started the talk off by saying, "Oh, nobly born, remember who you are," right? And I had this memory. It was like I just started weeping, And the beautiful thing is that Buddha nature is so much more beautiful than, I grew up with a lot of Christianity, which was like, you're born bad. That's all there is to it. You could walk across the desert for 1,000 years and you'll never be anything but a sinner. It's like, what a hopeless idea, right? I liked the Buddhist perspective because it was like, you're enlightened. You forgot, though. That's much more hopeful. Now I got a path, right? It's like, yes, I forgot, right? I got to wake myself up. There we are. We're awakening ourselves. And the point of this class now, because we've been together, it was about 250 of us, pretty strong every week. It's about waking up your innate medicine, your courage, your strength, because it's in all of us. And the shift is about, it's not just the game of the oppressor. The oppressor, they only can oppress what we believe. It's like when everybody starts to be like, no, things shift, right? And that no is like, no, our values matter, right? Human lives matter. Our communities matter, right? People are treated well, matter. People are not brutalized, right? So this power we want to be cultivating. And it was really funny. I had a lot of images this last 3 days has been so epic for me. I had a lot of images of the Matrix, and I kept hearing, in the Matrix, the scenes where they were fighting, they were boxing. Morpheus and Neo. And I was out this dream where it was like, I kept hearing Morpheus be like, come on, come on. I was like, okay, what, and it's just like energetic. What I'm doing is like moving my body into like a kind of more a different state. You know what I mean? So you might want to take up like Kung Fu, or some kind of Bruce Lee activities. It's a state of mind, because it's like, and a lot of that conversation of the matrix between Neo and the whole conversation was about, where's your power? Access it. It's in you, right? He was trying to pull it out of Neo. He was like, come on, you're more powerful. Stop playing small, right? Don't play small. And so all of you on this call have this enormous power. It doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter if you're 75. Don't think your age has anything to do with it. Some of the wisest beings are elders, right? Don't let your ethnicity or your age or even your mobility think that you have less power, right? It's like this belief, it's like rising up in us. So this weekend, I thought a lot about the matrix, and just feeling so deeply, how is it that we can embody this, that we want to be conductors? And how do we train to be conductors? This is some Jedi training right now. And we're about to go back into quarantine. Round 2 is about to happen, right? Let's be honest. Any day, California is going to shut the doors again and we go back in our house. Okay, great. Corona, I'm listening, right? Round 2, here we go. What are we going to do with that time? How are we going to spend it? And we want to be almost like in Bodhisattva training here, because the archetype of the Bodhisattva, again, is this way that we see ourselves as being a conduit, right? We see ourselves as a channel. We live our lives focused on the good, right? I live my life dedicated to compassion. That's very easy for me to do. It's innate in me. I don't have to struggle with that. That was never, at a very young age, I was like, oh yes, I'm Buddhist and I'm going to help people. It was like, all I had to do was like have a little veil taken away. It was like, yes, okay. So for me, that resonates, living my life in service. Because also, I'll tell you what, my joy comes from that. My joy comes from shedding illusions. My joy comes from releasing fear. This is what we're doing on the spiritual path. So there's something internal that's happening, and there's also something external that's happening. And so the archetype of the Bodhisattva, and there's been many Bodhisattvas throughout time, we all have these qualities. They are motivated to alleviate suffering. They are willing to stand up, right? And I believe, and I had a lot of thoughts about Harriet Tubman over the last 4 days. I've been praying, bringing the energy in and trying to learn, how is it that you, Harriet, were so strong? Tell me, please. How is it? So I want to talk about that as we approach the topic of what does it mean? We know that nonviolence is the only way. That I believe that we can't battle. I can't hate racists. I mean, do you get it? That's the koan. I hate you because you hate me, right? It's like, it's just a tangle, right? That's not going to work. It never works, right? So you got to go through the heart here. The only way I can reach people is through the heart. If your heart's not in the game, then I can't, right? It's like it's motivated by a higher energy. And so how do we reconcile this idea that a revolution may happen or some kind of battle? Because you know what, a lot of these white nationalists, they're arming themselves, and they have an igniter in the president right now. There's a trigger, right? It's like you got all this wood, but you need a light and you need a fire source. And he's like taking matches. There's a pile of wood that's really ready to go. And he's like, yep. And he's just throwing it. So that's okay. I think we have to realize this is archetypal. I mean, this is a movie. This is Star Wars right now. I mean, this is the movie of our time. We will look back on this in 5 years, 3 years and go, oh my God, what happened? It was all, and that's okay. This is why I say this time is powerful, and we're all being called to be these conductors of truth. That's what we want. We want to be a conductor of truth, and we want to lead in your own way. It might be your apartment building or your neighborhood or your children. How are you leading that? Right? That's the Bodhisattva heart, is like we continually teaching wisdom, truth. We are allowing ourselves, our lives to be a channel for that, speaking truth, sharing with people. And we do it because we love it. You can't be in this for any other reason but love. I'm in this because I love these people. I love George Floyd. I didn't have to know him. If I saw anything happen to someone like that, I would have my heart in it, But we got this history to contend with. And so I was praying about Harriet Tubman, and I know that there's a debate going on a little bit, and I really understand that. Miss Susan Burton brought that onto the table about, do we see Harriet Tubman as a real person or as like an action figure that Hollywood made, right? And that is a real that's a real issue to go into creating someone who's way over here and we're down here, and she's just a story. However, there is something very powerful about Harriet Tubman. There's almost like an angel. I believe that Harriet Tubman came in that incarnation. A friend of mine was telling me, I think it was Jeanette actually, that green Tara, who's an emanation of what we call the enlightened consciousness of the feminine. She has 21 faces, and one of them looks like Harriet Tubman. Right. So bodhisattvas can take birth in infinite shapes, birds, people, anything. They can shapeshift. They're shapeshifters. They're shamans, right? They're shamanic. We could say that Buddha was like one of the greatest shamans ever, right? Because he was able to give medicine to the people. He was a healer of the sick. What's sick? Our minds, right? He's like, here's some medicine to transform suffering. Right? We are healers of consciousness, right? We are healers of the heart and the mind, and we're all connected in that. I'm connected to what's happening with people all over, right? We all are in different levels. And so I really believe, as I'm going along here with my deep exploration of Harriet Tubman, that she was indeed some type of great prophet. Because the fact of the matter is, she was so protected, what she was doing. And so I want to talk about this one period where Harriet, for 10 years was on the Underground Railroad, was a conductor, and then was deeply involved in the abolitionist movement and anti-slavery movement, was giving talks. If she was able to read and write, she probably would have been writing endlessly. But as we know, it was illegal, and many people died even trying to teach people, enslaved people, how to read and write, right? And so my thoughts about Harriet are that she came with this mission in mind, with this mission. And that's what bodhisattvas do. They're willing to take on a type of karma, right, to help liberate it. And so what's interesting about Harriet is that she carried a gun. For what the research I've been seeing, she was only defending herself. And that's the part that I'm trying to understand. Like, what would I do in defense of someone? It's like, would I hurt someone in defense? Or like, it's like, how far are we willing to go? I guess that's the question to chew on. Like, what if we have a revolution and some people need to stand up and some people need to actually protect others? How willing are we to go to protect others? Harriet carried 2 guns when she was conducting the Underground Railroad. So that felt important, because they never said that she killed people. I don't know if she did or not, but it's very important that we see this conversation in multiple levels. So I was remembering that scene in Star Wars where Yoda was training Luke Skywalker. And he was saying, you only use the Force for defense, never to attack, right? That was like a big thing. Like Jedis never use the Force to attack, only defense, right? And so that kind of was like opening my mind a little bit more. Like, okay, well, if I had to use my power in some way to defend, it's just a question, isn't it? Like how if a war needs to happen, or some kind of civil war, I'm not talking about a major war, but a civil issue right now, because we're back in history. I have no doubt we'll win. We already won. The Union won, right? But there could be like some kind of war-ish like situation. So it's interesting. And also Harriet, so she goes back after, and then a war happens. And I want to share a little bit more about John Brown. And John Brown, he was born in 1800 and he died at 59 years old. He died in 1859. And I talked about him last time because he was extremely revolutionary. In fact, he led an insurrection on called the Harper's Ferry Raid. It's actually what triggered the Civil War. That's what they say in history. So he was white and he was so against slavery. I mean, it was like, I think we should fight right now. Let's arm all the slaves and let's just end this, right? That was his mind state. And he was a really good friend of Harriet. And he ended up doing a few different battles, but this time he got caught and then he was hung, right? Because he got caught. And what's so interesting about this is Ulysses Grant, the general of the Confederate, which right now many statues are coming down with him on the horse. He was involved in that squabble that he had. He was protecting. They were trying to go and steal all these weapons. And his idea was, I'm going to go to this, I'm going to raid this military weapons place. I'm going to take all the weapons, I'm going to give them all to the slaves, and we're going to revolt. That was the idea. But they got caught and they all got hung. But it was interesting in the story about this particular ancestor, John Brown, is that Ulysses S. Grant, who we are taking down the statues right now, blocked it. But John Brown became a martyr. He became someone that actually ignited more the abolitionists. They felt bad for him, right? He became this figure for the whole anti-slavery movement, and became a reason that the Civil War started. Actually, they realized like, okay, we are going to have a fight. So even him doing that was very interesting because it ignited something. So what do we do, friends, with violence here? How do we hold the violence that's happening? How do we see it? And how do we, people are willing to put their lives on the line. A lot of those protesters, put their lives on the line. There's people who have injuries now. There's people one girl I've seen on CNN lost her eyesight, right? People are being harmed by the nerve gas. And then we're in the backdrop of this whole coronavirus thing. So it's like, this is a very interesting time to be exploring. And again, how do we stand up for our values, and what are we willing to do? And so as I was thinking about Harriet Tubman, I was thinking about her being a bodhisattva, where there's some bodhisattvas that have taken life, right, in protection of others. So they might have taken a life, but they didn't have the hatred. It was kind of like the Jedi training, like only for defense. I mean, what wouldn't you do if you were defending your mother, right? Or your child? It's not coming from that motivation, but we may have to reach a moment where we have to defend innocent people. And the bodhisattva is willing to stand up in some way, right? Or we're willing to be heroic. And it may be that we stand up by just speaking out at our job. It may be that you stand up to someone in your family. It may be that you stand up to the police. I saw this. There was a video a couple of weeks ago where a white woman was walking down the street and she saw police. Maybe some of you saw the clip. There was a gun pointed. Police were pointing guns at 3 teenagers who were just like playing, right? But that's what happens, living their lives. And she went and stood in front of them. and was like, no, what are you doing to them, right? That woman had some courage, right? And that's kind of like what bodhisattvas do. We're willing to stand up. And it doesn't have to be that extreme, but it's just that it may come to that though. During this time, you might be asked to put something on the line in a new way. And maybe you're writing something that feels controversial. You're speaking out in your church, or, right now it is a time that we have this kind of courage, and there's unjust laws happening right now, right? This police brutality is unjust. So there's a way in which all of us are kind of moving in our own way toward supporting this movement, right? And this issue of violence and nonviolence, it just continues to be an interesting one. The thought of touching guns sends me into like, I don't like any weapons at all, I mean, I was practicing Kung Fu, but I'm much more like Kung Fu Panda, I'm not Bruce Lee, like I'm not like, my mind doesn't go into like those modes. But then I started to think, well, what would you do if you were leading a group, you were protecting a group of people? It's just like, we're just expanding that, and yet we're deeply committed to nonviolence. That is the path of freedom. I completely believe in the Mahatma Gandhi approach to it. I believe in Dr. King, and I understood Malcolm X. I understood that hurt. I definitely. But what's sad is, look, they both died. They were both victims of gun violence. They were both murdered. And so that's also just interesting to hold, that. And what you would be willing to do in your own spiritual practice. So these are the things that I'm kind of grappling with right now. The idea of the warrior. So here's Harriet. So she, the most wanted person in the entire South. Okay, the most wanted woman puts on a military uniform and leads, the first woman ever to lead a troop of Black soldiers back straight into the South to rescue slaves. Imagine that, fully armed. Also, thank you, Hope reminded me, Mahatma Gandhi died of gun violence too. So many of these people, many people have died, right, over this. So it's just an interesting place for us to explore, right? So there's Harriet leading a group of troops. First ever woman in history to lead a battalion group. They were slaves. And by the way, the Union would never have won without the 300,000 slaves that joined to fight. They actually turned the tide on the war, right? So again, you have Black people fighting for their humanity that actually, again, turn the tide. This will happen again, no doubt. That's why you have Black voices rising up, because they're saying, hey, we're having another battle here. Help, right? And then again, the tide will turn. I know it. We'll win this period that we're in, because truth wins. Love wins. I don't say that in a joking way. I say that because that is the universal law, right? Hatred, it can do a lot of harm, but it won't win here. And so what we are called to do is to just think about this. And as Harriet goes in leading this battalion, and then she goes to rescue slaves that were stuck on these plantations, right? And I was reading more and more. She's rescued thousands that were stuck in the middle of the zone and were about to be murdered, any day, were murdered by the Confederate soldiers. They weren't going to let them be free, and they weren't going to let them join the Union Army. So all of these people were in great danger of just being murdered. And so she went and she got them. And I'm sure there was battles. She was in a gunfire. She had 2 or 3 epic battles, right? Where they were in boats and shooting. So then Harriet, of course, because she's innately nonviolent, she goes out and becomes the nurse. Right? So she's nursing them all back to health, because many injured, many were sick, conditions were really bad. It was a war zone for many years, bloody war zone. And then, so her life was committed to peace, right? She was committed to the woman's struggle. she she built the first African American home for elderly Black people. That's where she died. She built it herself, and she wanted care for these elders, right? So we're just holding this warrior woman, right? This prophet Moses, calling her Moses. I have no doubt there was some divine protection, because according to the history, she was in literal war zones, firing back and forth, and she was in the middle of it and somehow escaped and got through and got what she needed to do, and was a spy. She was a spy. She went all over, years running back and forth, delivering messages. I mean, that's so pretty remarkable, right? Because again, I don't think she would have wanted to do that, but the institution of slavery had to end somehow. And so sometimes there has to be this battle to end something so bad. And so I'm just holding that in my heart. I would love to just pray it away, but I don't know if it can just be prayed away without some kind of battle, a shamanic battle. It's like the soul of something is, and there's so much violence right now. And so I'm just trying to hold all of that. Do you know what I mean, friends? Like, what's happening out there? So here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to look at everybody and wave. Hi, everybody. Beautiful. Yes, it's good. I'm looking because I only can see the first page. So here's what I would like to do. I know there has been a debate about small group discussions. So I took them out because we had so much great content. But I actually do want you to break up in small groups today for just about maybe 15 minutes. And because I feel like talking to each other. And I'm going to ask you to put on your special Buddha hats, remembering that everyone's very sensitive. It's not a time to download to other people, right? Don't give a lot of advice. That's not going to be helpful, right? So we want to do like where we're just sharing. There's so many beautiful people on this call. You don't know everybody, but as I look through, I know who these people are. It's a good people to talk to. That's what I'm saying. So I want you to have a little bit of a time for each person to share about what's your bottom line? Like, where would you stand like on this? Like, what violence, nonviolence? Is there a way to be defending yourself nonviolently, even if someone gets hurt, or, it's just a lot to think about, but it's a part of Harriet's life as a soldier and a warrior, that she had this way that if you attacked her, she might have shot you. There's no clear record that she did that, but I'm sure she shot her gun off a few times, or she pulled her gun out many times. I have no doubt she pulled it out, at any moment if she had to. But again, it's in defense, right? They were trying to kill her, right? And so yeah, to me, this is just a very interesting as a devout, nonviolent person, but also understanding that sometimes wars have to happen. World War II had to happen. They had to end. Action had to come in. And so we have a heart of compassion around that. And I want to explore that. So Janetti, and Janetti, why don't you just say hi to everyone? I want to give thanks to Jeanette Jaramillo, yay, from Ecuador.
Hello.
Hi, sweet.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying the class.
So Jeanette is all the way in Ecuador, and she's always making everything happen around here. So we give thanks to you, Janetti.
Oh, you're welcome.
My most beloved assistant.
My pleasure.
So what we're going to do is we're going to break up into groups. Let's do groups of 5, Jeanette, because some people may opt out. But I want to encourage us to get on and talk to each other about this, because this is something we don't often talk about. But warriors, Jedis, you'll notice there was a lot of defending going on. And sometimes you have to be different than you normally are in certain moments. And I'm starting to learn that. So okay, let's break up into groups, and we'll do that let's do 20 minutes. Yeah. Is that too? I feel like that's a good time to share. So I would love to hear some words, Risika, if you would like to share some about this whole topic of, like Harriet was a warrior, everybody, and warriors have a different set of code that they live by. And it's just really interesting to imagine that. So I would love, if you had anything you'd like to share, Risika, just about that or how we hold the complexity of that.
I think we hold complexity as complexity. Harriet Tubman is, I think, the only woman to lead an army into battle. And so when there was this battle at the Combahee River, there was killing, because that's what soldiers are taught to do. They kill each other. And I think it's really important to remember, whatever stance we take or don't take, there are consequences. So I think the day before September 11th happened, there was a story on KPFA about soldiers who had been in a particular battle in Korea. This is about American soldiers. And what was unusual about this battle is there were actually written orders that came down that said, kill everyone in this village, every living soul. And so grandmothers and babies, all civilians were killed. And this radio cast was about how 50 years later, some of those soldiers were still seeing the child they had shot, or the bones of the grandmother that they had stepped on, chasing people into the tunnels. And so I like to say that even when killing needs to be done in a righteous cause, it changes something about our humanity.
Oh, yeah.
We don't love it. And that's why I think there are rituals when, in some of Native American cultures, when people came back from battle, there were rituals to cleanse them. There were rituals around what it means to take a human life. And that even in the taking of animal life, we are supposed to offer prayers. And so I think none of us know what we will do in the moment of being actually faced with people threatening our beloveds or ourselves. And sometimes it's easier to think about being nonviolent when it's just you.
Yeah.
During the civil rights movement, even though this was by and large a nonviolent struggle, there were the deacons for self-defense. If you talk to veterans of the civil rights movement, you hear stories about how people sat with their guns in their cabins because they knew the Klan might be coming by that night. But I think more importantly is our understanding that we do this only as a last resort, because you killed, I killed, your father, you kill my child,
Yeah.
that
And on.
cycle, an issue of violence. And one more story, if I have time. My first spiritual teacher told me, talking about what it was to be a spiritual warrior, that a young Tene woman, Apache, who's in a group that has been killed, goes to what she called the high green place. And that warrior woman was told she could stay there. She was due her rest. She had fought, but that she had a choice. She could go back to where the crows were eating her heart and liver and stay alive long enough to tell Geronimo that the cavalry was in that area. And it's the choice of a warrior who holds soft over her body, her mind, and her actions. That young woman chose to come back to where the crows were eating her heart and liver and stay alive long enough to warn the people that they needed to run. So I want to offer that warriorhood, many, many things.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And I see Ananda Bodhi. Ananda Bodhi, would you like to add something? A beautiful, amazing nun and teacher at Spirit Rock, about just from the Buddhist perspective here, Hope she's still on. Ananda Bodhi, where are you?
I'm here. You should be able to hear me. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry I put you on the spot. But I would love to hear your thoughts.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's kind of going in and out. I know you're
Okay.
up in the country.
Yeah, we're in this. Yeah.
But I can hear you.
I mean, the Buddha, I think, was very. Okay, great. The Buddha was very, very clear about not killing. He was very clear about harmlessness. And I mean, there are suttas. There's this one very extreme sutta where he's saying, even if somebody is cutting off your arms and legs, and you have even a little tiny thought of hatred towards them, then you're not a disciple of mine. I mean, it's like very high bar, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to me, like, and also living in America where there are so many guns, and there are so many gun deaths, and there are so many mass shootings, like more than any other country that I know of, certainly any, yeah. And, you know, more guns, picking up a gun is not going to help anything as far as I can see. And this isn't so much a Buddhist perspective, it's more my own observation as a kind of an immigrant, you know, to this country. I'm an American citizen now, so I'm kind of a bit of both. And you know, there has been a civil war, there was a civil war, and it changed things on the surface for the better, hugely, but it didn't change people's hearts. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and it's like all of those people a lot of those people in the South were dominated, their view was crushed under the you know, through that war, and they had to change, but not because they wanted to change. And generation after generation, people have held the sense of like, we have a right to fly the Confederate flag and to, you know, on all of this stuff, because the conversations haven't happened. People haven't learned. They've just been forced to change. And I think just to do that again is not the answer. Mm-hmm. So I think the Buddha was very clear about harmlessness, but, you know, and I'm also very aware that here in America, Black people are being killed, have been being killed for centuries, you know, and it's happening again and again and again and again, and these people are on the front line not because they want to be. So I don't have an answer as to what to do, and I do feel like as white people we need to start stepping up into the front line. It's time. For what that looks like, I don't know.
Oh, thank you so much,
Spring,
for sharing that, Ananda Bodhi. I appreciate your... Yes, Ashley?
Hi, Spring. May I say something, please?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I had such a wonderful conversation with my group, and I had acknowledged that, you know, as a wellness practitioner, but also raised with a grandmother who had a machete and a Bible in the South, you know, so I grew up with those worlds like, you know, we're going to do our best to, you know, practice peace, but if you come to disturb our peace, then we're going to do our best to survive by any means necessary. And I just had a moment as soon as I left the meeting, because I remembered when my brother was killed. Because what I was saying was, by any means necessary, I will defend myself. And I was reminded of a moment back in 2007. And when my sister and I went down there right after my brother was murdered, and the city was really, really hot. And we're warriors, naturally. We're goddesses and warriors and all those things. And people wanted revenge. And even with our strength and our pain, deep pain, we advocated for peace. And that just came back to me, because I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to defend myself. And you hurt my loved one? Absolutely. And then I remembered that night when the streets were really, really hot. And it was easier because I'll be 100% honest. It was very easy. It was much easier for me and my family to hold off on doing more violence because it was another young Black man, and we were not advocating. We didn't want our community to be destroyed. We didn't want grandmothers and you know, innocent children. And then I remembered about something about this wonderful thing called grace. Because even when we feel like I am going to rebel, I am ready, late in the midnight hour, sometimes early in the morning, there is this sweet voice of reasoning. There's this sweet voice of peace, and grace has been given to me, and I have been able to give it to others. And it just reminds me of, and so what I'll say now is, I'm not always sure. I want to always protect myself and protect others, but I had a very real moment where violence was in my hands. And I won't even say it was a choice I made on my own. It was a higher power speaking through me and speaking through my sister. And so I think if we remember that there is this big old universe that is loving and kind and got our back, that even when we feel so vulnerable and so angry and ready to nuck if you have to, there is sometimes, some people call it the Holy Spirit, some people call it the Holy Ghost, and it just softens everything. And so I'm so glad that I just had that reminder of what I like to think I chose to do with fire in my hands, and what was chosen for me. And so, riding those waves,
Oh, Ashley, I always love when you share. It's just so magical. And I just, thank you for sharing that. And I think, at the bottom line to this too, is that overall, African-American people have been incredibly nonviolent around this. We have forgiven, and it has always been these voices of, like what you said, Ashley, like a higher grace. The songs are never about being violent. They're like, okay, we're gonna make it through this. So there is something in this movement that inherently, out of this movement where Black people have been nonviolent. If you think about it, even that church where all those people were killed in North Carolina, the first thing was forgiveness. The first thing. I mean, so I just, wanted to have this conversation with us all today because, it's important as a warrior that, Harriet was, she was a warrior, a soldier. She was a conductor of the Underground Railroad. And I think if that's the case, she went in knowing what that would, call for. But I also agree very much, like with Ananda Bodhi, and you actually, like, I think there is something that's a higher power that has to come through. It cannot be, we have to be willing, like wherever the pieces fall, like whatever happens. We stand up no matter what, but we don't, arm ourselves. I definitely, was going to come full circle with that, but it's just an interesting place to just nuance with Harriet's life, very much. And so I can't know what it was like to be her, being chased, and know what I would do even, but it seems that she showed up with a loving heart no matter what was going on. It seemed that her issue was ending hatred and abolishing slavery, and that happened in her lifetime. But now, as Ananda Bodhi said, it's the mind. So as we move out into the world and become these conductors, we've got to figure out new ways of healing this wound and healing consciousness itself, right? Like what this hatred, I don't know how to heal it other than to keep speaking truth, to keep showing up, trusting that there is a higher order to this, a higher power to this. But it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to think about. And so also the Bodhisattva vows that we take. So Jeanette, let's show the slide of Shanti Deva's prayer. So I want to show you and us to reflect together, because really this is about the Bodhisattva, and the Bodhisattvas have magic powers anyway. They don't need guns, hopefully, love protects us. And I'm glad, it seems like everyone appreciated the small groups today. And so I wanted to show you Shanti Deva's prayer here.
May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a base of plenty, a tree of miracles. And for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring substance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are free from sorrow and all are awakened.
Amen. Okay, Janetti, that's good. We don't need to look at the other one. We're going to save that one for next week, St. Francis. So that is such a beautiful prayer, and we'll be sending that out. And then many of you might reflect on that and even, take Bodhisattva. There we go. Ryan posted it. So you can all cut it out and just to reflect on this for a while. Maybe I'd be a guard for those who need protection. This is really it. It's so beautiful. I should have printed it out right here. This was a last minute addition. But I just want us to kind of leave you all with this note about the Bodhisattva prayer and how we can grow together. Again, this Bodhisattva vow that we take at times and that we live through is a practice. It's our spiritual practice. It's not like one day it just the button clicks on, I'm a Bodhisattva. It's like, it's like first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you got to work your way up, And so, but it's just a beautiful aspiration to put yourself, to have this in your consciousness. It plants a beautiful seed in the ground, that's for sure. And then I want to make a little bit of an announcement as we begin to shift out right in this moment. So I've decided that I'm going to have this time on Sundays is Dharma of Harriet Tubman, an ongoing Underground Railroad Dharma group. Like, we'll be on here, I'll promote it all over with all my other friends, and we'll Harriet's the backdrop, but we're going to also look at other freedom fighters, people in history, and we'll have music and more gospel music. And so it's just going to be like this Sunday class kind of with Harriet as our guiding force. But I really want to offer a weekly class. I've been wanting to, and so many people are excited about having a Sunday kind of social justice Dharma inspired group around these particular issues. So you're all invited to that. We're going to also put together a Facebook group for this group. So so we can share stuff, we can stay in tune, we can be together. And then next week we're going to have a really beautiful class where we're going to talk much more about our ancestors. We're going to talk about healing ourselves as Jedis. What are the training techniques, right? What's going to help us get, access our power? That's a lot next week is about how to really transform, right? And access and become, how do we become a bridge? How do we become the light in the darkness? We need to inspire each other with that. And again, you have to remember that you have tremendous power. Okay, that this is accessing the power that's what I want to bring to people. That's it, to help you see your Buddha nature. And then lastly, I want to say that I want to also thank people for all the generosity with the tickets. Some people, we gave away probably 100 tickets. And then some people were our super Bodhisattva ticket rate at you were giving a lot. And if you would like to, this is kind of like an offering that we're using all of the monies collected to start all these new things like the sitting group. And we're going to have it on Facebook live streamed and all these different things. So if you feel inspired to support my work around putting out a lot of content right now, because right now we're kind of, Jeanette and I, she's my assistant, we're sort of living from what we get from these classes. So for those who feel inspired, you can always send Dana love offerings via PayPal. And this will help me because I really, really feel motivated to be running the trains right now, like a conductor in a big way. And so, but all of those things, it's like takes a lot, editing and then this and then that, you know, it's just time. And so if you want to support more, you can always send donation to me and in support of this work. And just know all proceeds will be going to support our weekly ongoing class, and also to re-record this Harriet class in a different way so that I can post it on YouTube, that I can put it out a lot of places, and give more teachings about the Underground Railroad. So, so you can always, I'll just put and I want to thank everyone for all their generosity, because it's been amazing. I mean, it's how we're living right now, on the generosity. That's how I've always lived, kind of, basically. So let's see. So there's you can use Venmo too. You can use, and you could just write Harriet Tubman Donna, and then that's going to be set aside for the production of the weekly group and all the video series that I want to film and then put on YouTube with all about Harriet. So we're going to end now with a prayer. I give thanks to all of you. And it's just been such a blessing to be on. Thank you, Ananda Bodhi. Thank you, Arisika. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for all of you who are here. Thank you to my sister, Hopi, who's been such a shining light of love and support. And she's in ministerial school. She's going to be a preacher. Both of us got it in our blood. You know, we're both conductors. I give a big shout out to my sister, and also Matthew Brensilver, another Spirit Rock teacher, was on. I give thanks to you and all of our family. And Beth, I give thanks to you, my publicist from New York City, who's now become a good friend. She's on. So I just thank all of you, and let's do this. Let's not be turned around. Okay, we got to keep on going. This class will be on every Sunday from here on, so you can always Zoom on. We'll be sending out all that information. Join our Facebook group, because we'll be sharing all the great information that was in the chat. We're going to try to make that group super informative, super positive, and just, you know, we got a long path ahead of us right now, everybody. This is like the road is like uphill. We're going to have to walk uphill together for a while. And so we can do this. This is the task, you know, with the heart. So we want to dedicate all the goodness that has come from this class to the healing of all beings everywhere. Om Mani Padme Hum, compassion and wisdom, please. And you can wave to everybody. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you again, Jeanette, who makes it all happen all the way from Ecuador.